Hey guys, just I just want to make an apology that these episodes were recorded months prior, almost to a year ago. So I am so sorry for the delay. Other than that, you guys enjoy the rest of these next few episodes. Okay, all right. Welcome to Gilbert's All About the Media podcast. I'm back with my good friend Jesus. And yes, I'm back in my apartment because I didn't get the studio for today. And also, I just didn't feel like going to my office space because it's a lug trying to get all my stuff in here. But anyway, summer's around the corner or here, depending on when I get this out. The good thing about summer is blockbusters, right, Jesus?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if this will be uploaded on any kind of service, but there's a reason why they're important. Just behind me right here. All these little posters of blockbusters that basically, I grew up on and whatnot. So they're very important.
Yeah, I'll try to get the video on YouTube. But if y'all haven't seen them, he's literally got posters of some of the stuff we're actually going to talk about. But yeah, summer blockbusters. I mean, there's a reason why people love them. It's like one of the reasons, of course, kids are out of. They don't have to wait until the like after class on Fridays to go see the movie. They could just go premiere night. Though nowadays, what is premiere night anymore? Because they show movies like 3 o'clock on a Thursday, which pisses me off. Believe it or not.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you before I actually start talking. Like, I didn't think this would actually ever continue because, like, even before COVID happened, I mean, there was all this streaming service, and are we ever gonna get blockbusters again? Luckily, you get people like Tom Cruise or Chris Nolan that are like, no, it's either in the theater or not at all. So I do believe that is going to continue happening. Let's start off with the one that is very close to both of us, especially me, because it came out June 20th. I was born June 20th. Jesus knows what I'm talking about, but it's the one and only Jaws. What can he say? This film was in production hell for what, 2 years, I believe?
I think so. I mean, really, I mean, everyone basically knows the story why. Just that
Yeah.
shark Bruce didn't know how to work himself, didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah, this film was like, so obviously I can't, what I'm trying to say is that like I shouldn't say who directed it because you should know by now. It's of course Steven Spielberg, but if this film was not a success, he would not actually have a career because Steven Spielberg had already directed two films at the time. One was TV, his TV film, the other one was already his
Right. The
theatrical.
first one was Duel, like at least in the 70s, 71 or something. And then it was his first theatrical feature, which was the Sugarland Express. And
Yeah.
right after that, that's when he decided to go ahead and make this adaptation.
Yeah. And of course, like as Jesus said, like there was an animatronic shark. It's hard to say that. Robotic shark. It's easier for me to say robotic shark that would sink pretty much all the time or have malfunctions. It was a tough film to make because again, this could have made or break a Steven's career. And he was 27, 28 at the time. No, he was still pretty young. Well, before we actually like get to the plot, let's just get to the backstory, the entire backstory. So it's based off a book by, I don't know the author's name, do you?
Peter Benchley.
Peter Benchley, which was based off shark attack that happened in 1916. It was rare for shark attacks to happen then because I heard it burst a bunch of y'all's bubbles, but like as much as Jaws is a great film and it's the only like great shark film because we are going to talk about those pretty soon. But and this is you are a marine biologist teacher or just biology teacher, but you study marine biology. To hate to burst everyone's bubble, but shark attacks in the movies are not actually what you would see in real life because the attacks are normally like accidental per se. A surfer on a skateboard looks like a seal to a shark. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like, I mean, you could tell about Bethany Hamilton, famous surfer. She got attacked by a tiger shark, and it was an accidental attack. She, for you know the story, she got her arm bitten off, but she's a surfer. But yeah, at the time, like there wasn't that much of a shark attack happening in 1916, considering this is when we were still going at war on the other side of the world. It's actually, I think, our only year in the war, or
I think so. Yeah. I mean, well, if we're correct, World War I ended in like 1918. So
yeah,
that would have been the only year we were in it.
or like when we were approaching it at the time,
Mhm.
because we weren't there that long. Yeah, they found the shark. I've seen this on the Discovery Channel during Shark Week, but they supposedly found the shark. They don't know if it was like the shark. So, of course, without Jaws, we wouldn't get Shark Week, which is, I think, the only reason why I tune in on the Discovery Channel. That
Yeah,
and
that's
when
pretty much the only thing.
and when Cash Cab used to be a thing. Unfortunately, it's not anymore. Yeah, pretty much a famous story. There's a shark that's attacking Amity Island. I won't say Amityville. Amity Island. It's New England.
Yeah, it's New England, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they give a specific state actually.
No.
No,
Well, hold on.
I
It's
said
well,
real.
I mean, the real life location would be Martha's Vineyard, which is I think somewhere located in Massachusetts, but I could be
Yeah,
wrong on the state.
yeah. Stars Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, and Richard Dreyfuss. I nearly forgot all their names. You would not have because you've seen it more countless times. I feel like more than I have. I never noticed they all have R's in their names.
Yeah, it's quite crazy how like things work out in the same if things work out in the end with the whatever kind of casting they decide to go with.
Yeah, literally a shark that attacks a bunch of people at Amity Island. Brody, the sheriff of the town, he discovers that there's shark attacks because of the marine biologist. The name of the marine biologist,
Oh, you mean Matt Hooper? Yeah.
Matt Hooper. Yeah. Okay, you just know Brody because like the entire series is built on the Brody family, and then it's obviously I know Robert Shaw's like character's name is Quint, especially because of that one scene we'll get to in a sec. Yeah, Hooper says like, "Hey, it's a shark attack," and again, like shark attacks were pretty rare, and they're still kind of rare, believe it or not. You know, it attacked a young teenage girl, and then it attacked a boy. And 8-year-old, 8-year-old me who saw that, I'm like, wow, they gunned for those for like at the time the two innocents in that era, and this whole crowd of like vigilante justice. And I feel like you can get like y'all know that I hate when films tend to get political, but you can also say like, you know, this is what happens when a crowd wants to get vigilante justice against something because someone or something is going to get attacked that it's not the culprit as what it's mentioned in the film because the culprit or what they believe they caught was the shark was just a regular tiger shark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yeah, they even cut it open. Yeah, no remains of anyone in there. Other than like, of course, the great directing by Spielberg, the acting is phenomenal. The script, two famous speeches in those films are like Alex's mother. Alex was the boy that got killed in the beginning of the movie. And she literally is like, it's talking about like, you knew that there was a shark out there, yet you let people go swimming. And now my son was the one who paid the price for it. And then, of course, there's another speech in that film, Robert Shaw's character, Quinn, who talks about when he was on the USS Indianapolis. For those who don't know, the USS Indianapolis was a naval ship that was torpedoed down by a Japanese U boat. And survivors dealt with dehydration, starvation, and, of course, shark attacks. And literally, he said, like, when the boat was going down, he said all these swarms of sharks just, do you know it word for word, by the way?
I'll be honest with you, it's been a while since I watched the film. I think the last time I went to go see it was when it had the re-release. Around the same time, I think last year when E.T. had came out for about a week or so, Jaws was
Yeah.
coming out in September, and that's practically the last time I've seen it.
So, okay, you know the end of that first dawn, last 100 men. I don't know how many sharks, maybe 1,000, but I don't know how many men they averaged 6 an hour. Dead eyes, a doll's eyes. Back to the story, really, because like I just got to commemorate that this script was really good because it goes off from what the book is. Because the book, Brody's wife is having an affair with Hooper, like they're having a marriage dispute, which is different in the movie because they actually don't. I mean, they love each other. They have two sons, and obviously Brody is very overprotective of his two sons. And like once another attack happened, which, by the way, I thought that in the beginning, like when I first saw it, I thought the shark went for all the boys on his son's boat, but it was just that one guy.
Yeah.
Because you just see the one leg just like floating down. By the way, if you've never seen this film, I don't know what is wrong with you in the first place. But second of all, you'll be disappointed with the amount of shark is in the film because I forgot what her name is. She's the editor of the film, which she actually won the Oscar for. But if it wasn't for her, that
Verna
editor,
Mills, I believe. I think it's Verna Mills or something like that.
Verna, I'll just stick with that. But because of her, I think like we wouldn't get the level of suspense and like where do you think the shark's gonna be? If it wasn't for her editing, I think like Spielberg would still have been in the mud because he said like it's rather like you see a shark than a big gray turd. Like that's literally what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like you'll rarely see the shark. Like the only time you'll see the shark is like in the midst of. You'll see a little dorsal fin in Alex's attack, and then you'll see again more dorsal fin, and then you'll see like half a shark's face killing one guy. And then it wasn't until like all the three guys decided they're gonna go out and get the shark themselves, you'll eventually get the actual reveal of the shark. Which even for me, it surprised me when like there's a part, you know, the part where Brody is still like throwing the chum, and then you know the shark comes out and he got freaked. I got freaked out. That and of course the famous scene where like Hooper's down there in the water looking for that wreckage
Yes.
boat, and then you know you see the dead head just pop out. Apparently that was filmed in Steven Spielberg's pool because they forgot to do that scene.
Yeah, it
and
was
they
a last minute thing, actually.
yeah,
They were telling the studio execs were telling him that they needed another scare of some kind just to like to ramp up the, I guess what you call horror aspect of the film. No, as far as we can tell, as like I mean, just taking it from my experience, I watched the movie in theaters. It still scares the hell out of people. It's
yeah.
crazy. I don't even know how. You expect it years later. You're like, you know it's gonna happen, and then next thing you know, I still hear people like gasp or like scream, and it's one heck of a scene.
Yeah. There's always been the debate, is it horror, is it horror Jason? I would say more horror Jason, but it's like leads to the genre of, I guess, monster flick. Per se, like there's the antagonist, of course, is a creature or creature feature. I think that's another term for it. Yeah, it's like that. The shark scene. It's an impressive shark, I'll be honest with you. Not like nowadays, it's a big old CGI shark that, but back then this was a full robotic shark. I still can't say animatronic, but it's a robotic shark. Like, yeah, it has its malfunctions, but it was worth it. They just had to film it like in an area where like the shark wouldn't sink that much and it wouldn't malfunction that much. But yeah, and of course, like when the reveal scene, of course, there's the we're gonna need a bigger boat, which I believe is actually ad lib and not part of the actual script. Then they, of course, they start killing the shark, or they're starting to like take down the shark, and it's like a that scene was along with John Williams' score, the great
Oh,
John Williams.
without the score, this movie would not have made as much money as it thought it would. It would
Yeah,
not reach the level of blockbuster that it has
yeah.
without him.
Because it was just two notes in the beginning, but the two notes they start getting faster and faster and faster because that's when the shark is getting closer and closer, and something's about to happen. And they're starting to realize like this shark is somehow tearing this boat apart. Of course, like this is fiction. A great white specifically wouldn't entirely do this, but this is the one film where like I think the suspension of disbelief, we let that happen because of like how intense this film is getting. And then they said we're just gonna poison the shark with shark poison. And of course, he voluntarily goes down into the water and he gets attacked, but he doesn't die. But in the book, he does get killed by the shark. And like there's a famous like cage scene that's actually not recorded by the film crew. It was actually recorded by an Australian submarine diver, I believe.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, you're actually seeing a shark like wrestle with a cage. Like that's an actual shark wrestling with a cage. And then at first, I'm pretty sure they all think like Hooper's dead. And now the shark just somehow defies gravity, jumps up, just lands on the boat. Again, suspension of disbelief. We're there. We're just forgetting reality at this point. This is the only film, by the way, where we forget reality because I am going to talk about the other films, unfortunately, because.
Well, here's the thing. Here's as far as I can tell you. Yeah, I mean it's a blockbuster, so you expect things to be as at one point when you're finally into it, you don't even care if
Yeah.
reality's thrown out the window. It's as good as it's gonna get. The sequels, sure, they get into some little weird territory here and there, but I mean, all four films actually have unique things that make them what they are. And yes, even the last film is, even if it's considered one of the worst films of all time by Rotten Tomatoes, it still has a place in my heart for some reason.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, because like again, the fight we let reality go because like again, the shark jumps up, attacks the boat. Quentin dies from the shark, which is different from in the book. Again, Quentin, if you've ever read Moby Dick, because Moby Dick, Captain Ahab is an inspiration for Quint. I can't give you the whole Moby Dick story because it's a big book and a lot of detail to go to. And I've only read that book once and I'm like, never again. But just a brief character of what we mean. But there's a thing called the Ahab persona, which is someone who seeks revenge on something that is against humanity. You know what I mean? So Ahab is against the giant whale, and his like quest for vengeance gets him killed. He like gets tangled. I think what gets tangled. Same thing in the
Same
Jaws
thing in the
book.
book. He just gets tangled in with his leg.
Yeah,
And
and drowns, which is
mhm.
weird because like that's how also how the shark dies from what like multiple wounds or something in the book.
Yeah, it's all anticlimactic in the end. I mean,
Yeah.
you have what Brody, who believes he's about to meet his end as the shark is approaching him, and then as
Mhm.
soon as he sees it, the closer the shark gets, the further it starts to sink in the ocean. So it's like, oh, it's all it was just a bunch of harpoons to end this thing.
Yeah, I mean, and in the movie, it does get harpooned a lot. They literally like connect barrels to the harpoons and shoot them. Which, by the way, I just forgot. We forgot the famous like song in the film, which is "Show Me the Way to Go Home." Just like when
Yeah,
they're all drunk and they're just singing that. I feel like the shark was like, "I am not listening to this." That's why it started attacking the boat. It's like, you guys are drunk. I'm just gonna like, yeah. If you at least have to know that scene, guys. Come on. But yeah, now Brody, he's believed because like Hooper's still alive. He just doesn't know it yet. But Brody right now believes he's the only one that's alive, which again, he's the only one that's alive in the book. We get the infamous ending, which is like he throws a tank in the shark's mouth and he uses a rifle gun and like shoots the tank. The shark explodes. The shark is dead. And yes, if you've ever watched Mythbusters, they've confirmed it's not plausible. And like
Right.
they even said like, I hate to ruin a great movie, but of course this is like a busted myth, which is unfortunate. But we
But that's the
react.
reality for you. That's
Yeah,
where the reality kicks in.
yeah. Eventually, he sees like, oh yeah, Hooper's alive. But then he asks Quinn. He's like, no. And then movie ends, and of course, it sparked Spielberg's career. Everyone loved that movie. It made like the largest amount of money. I don't even know how much it made.
At the time, it was basically the highest grossing film of all time at
Yeah,
about around 100 million.
yeah,
And that's what helped like the theater, or should I say, what is, I don't know what kind of person indicates terminology, but that range is what became as we well known as the blockbuster.
yeah, because it literally broke like the blocks, and again, it sparked Spielberg's career, and unfortunately, money talks. So the Universal was like, we're gonna make another Jaws. Like they made three extra films, as we mentioned. There's Jaws 2, Jaws 3D, and then Jaws: The Revenge. I would say, like, if you would ever watch them, in my personal opinion, you could regard the third and the fourth one. The second one is like at least watchable, but the problem with the second one is it's too much like the first one. Except I call it like Two-Face Jaws because there's a scene in the second film where like the shark attacks a boat and this woman spills gasoline all over the shark and on her and then like accidentally sets them on fire and he has this big old like half burnt. That's why I call it, Two-Face.
Two-Face Jaws. Yeah.
Yeah, which I'll mention. I'm actually gonna mention Dark Knight in a sec because like I think Nolan is like Spielberg when it comes to summer blockbusters.
Oh yes.
Yeah. And it's not
If there's
Spielberg.
one thing, I'm sorry if I can just add one other thing with
No,
it.
go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the second film is a watch if you just really wanted to continue on with your whole Jaws kind of craze. If you, let's say you watch the first film for the first time and it changes your life, and you're like, I gotta see more just because you have to. The second one is the only option, really, because the third and fourth films is just something that you probably want to watch with people and laugh at. The second one, again, besides having Brody returning and his wife along with the mayor, practically pretty much. What's more interesting about the sequel is the behind the scenes. If you've never watched the documentary or if you have seen it, you basically hear a lot of what the original cast used to say. There's a reason why Brody, or at least the real life actor Roy Scheider, didn't say anything or didn't even ask, or didn't appear in the documentary for the second film, but absolutely was okay with the first film's documentary because the director of that second film, which
Oh
my name
yeah.
escapes at the moment, they absolutely had constant conflict amongst themselves to the point where he was ready to walk out of set and say, "I'm done. There's no way you can get me out of this." And well, I think that's what he did. I think he signed a picture deal with Universal, like canceling his contract just to do two movies and then just jump ship. But
Yeah. Yeah, because and I guess you could also say like it goes with the whole like slasher genre because of course there's teens getting massacred in this film. Really, it was just two of them. To me, I also call it like a level of bad parenting because like both of Brody's sons went out there when there's a shark. Well, one snuck out, the other one just followed Mike, right?
yeah,
Yeah, the oldest Mike, which we'll also see in the next two films, unfortunately. They're all played by different actors at this, by the way, all four of them. And he goes out, he sneaks out, and because he's grounded, oh yeah, because there's a shark. And then his younger brother follows him. And then they get attacked. Mike nearly gets killed. And the younger brother gets face to face with a shark when it kills that one girl in front of him. So yeah, that's a level of bad parenting there, but also not his fault. And then like I would also say like because Brody has PTSD about like what happened, no one believes him. There's another shark out there. He gets his position ripped from him. And as soon as like all that happens, that's when people are like, yeah, now there's another shark out there. And then I'm gonna let y'all know this. The mayor in these two films is like if you thought, and I don't mean to discourage any conservatives out there, and I'm not promoting any liberal ideologies, but if some of y'all thought Trump was bad, I don't know, y'all should have checked this mayor out. Like,
hey man, they literally reelected him. Think
yeah.
about that for a second. You reelected the mayor that said, go in the water, everything's fine. A kid died or something, so what? It's all good. Like,
Yeah.
really? I mean, you got to be that dumb enough to go ahead and vote for the same guy twice. But here's the thing also with as much as without the book, there would be no movie anyway. I don't really like the book in general. There's a reason. It's like one of the only times where I would recommend the movie over the original adaptation, just because there's. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, I don't know. So, some like the whole little romantic scenario with between or affair between
Oh
Hooper and
yeah,
Brody's wife, I didn't care for.
me
And
either.
the fact that all three of them, just because the movie was so ingrained with their like relationship between the trio, that they felt like they grew so much and knew each other for years, even though they only spent like what 2 or 3 nights together
Pretty
out at
much.
sea. Just reading it in the book is just kind of different. But the one thing I wish they would have kept and should have included in the sequel, just to make it clear as to why they voted for the mayor and let his own board or council people do what they're doing, is the fact that the mayor needed to keep the beaches open because he owed debts to the mafia.
Hmm. Yeah.
I wish that was something they would have carried, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. It's pretty much the same thing. The only thing that's different is like instead of like blowing up the shark, Brody finds this electrical wiring underneath the ocean. I don't know where they said like one kid mentioned like knew where they're at. I just didn't pay attention because as much as like I'm scared for these kids, I also don't care for these kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But they mentioned like where they are and like Brody finds this wiring. He lures the shark to him and he puts the wire in the shark's mouth and like, gets electrocuted and fried. Or my mom said barbecued. But yeah, I mean, it's a watchable film. Yeah. It's just like as too much of the first film. But the third and fourth film, yeah, it's just don't, don't bother. Because like both of them are following the Otis Michael. One's at SeaWorld. Yes, like if you have not seen these movies, you are hearing me right. The third one takes place in SeaWorld, the worst special effects you would have ever seen. I'm not saying that because that film came out in like 81 or whatever. I'm no, like even the 3D looks bad.
3D was a bad time during the 80s. It never said it was simply a gimmick. It's always been a gimmick in
Yeah.
cinema. So, like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I'm going to go off topic just a little bit. Friday the 13th, part three, the 3D was forced because the technology, the filmmakers forgot how to use it. So they told literally the actors, like, put stuff like this close in front of the camera and it'll make it look 3D, which, again, forced. The only good thing about this film is that it has Dennis Quaid in this film. The bad
mhm.
thing is, like, it has Dennis Quaid. Like, I have nothing against Dennis Quaid. He's actually a tremendous actor. It's just like, he doesn't look like he's really having a good time. Another
I think he
actress.
was high.
Oh, really?
I believe him and who was it? The actress who would be his like girlfriend in the film. I think they were both high when they were making this film. But
Yeah.
not only that, just to pinpoint it, I don't think a lot of people know this, but actually, I think this was one of the first films that Leah Thompson was in
Yeah.
before she
Yeah.
came into that future series.
Yeah. Obviously, we're going to mention Back to the Future and Leah Thompson because why? I mean, if it's a blockbuster episode, how could you not? But yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it takes place at SeaWorld. They blew up the shark, which was, I think, the mother shark. Well, it was like a grenade in like a victim's hand, and then they pulled, I don't know. And then, of course, like the 3D was again forced on this one because you see like the jaw bones of the shark like fly into the screen. Even when I first saw it as a little kid, I'm like, this is like too forced upon. And then you get the unfortunate Jaws of Revenge where reality just like here's what his was talking about, like throwing reality out the window. This film you can't because it's about a shark seeking revenge and it follows the Brody family to the Bahamas because like the youngest son, he's grown up now, gets attacked in the beginning of the movie and somehow the one, by the way, Sheriff Brody is dead in this film. I think his best Roy Scheider never showed up in these two films because just the downfall that this happened. And like supposedly he died of a heart attack, but she says like the fear of like the shark attacks coming back killed him. And then somehow she has a psychic connection with the main shark. Yes, you guys are hearing me right. I'm not high or anything. This is literally how the movie is. And you said there were two endings of this film on how the shark dies, right?
Yeah, so like originally I believe the ending was like the original ending was to simply show the shark as again where Ellen Brody is pretty much trying to go on a death wish on the shark. All she does is simply drive the boat, but at some point I don't know what you want to call it, the mast, like the front
The-
of the boat, like there's the device that holds the sail, it kind of
yeah.
broke off, allowing like a chipped off piece of wood. She just rams that piece of wood into the shark through the gills, which is, I mean, I guess that would explain why it would die. But
Yeah.
it's weird because it's all it does. You just stab the thing through the shark. It roars like a lion, which is the worst things I've ever heard of. And yeah, I mean, it somehow takes the whole entire boat with they fall off of the boat thinking it sinks. But obviously that wasn't such a good ending. So what they decided to do instead was go ahead and make a last minute, really cowardly addition of just making it explode as it gets stabbed. So it's like, how the hell did it blow up?
Yeah.
Like, whatever.
Yeah. No. And there's people like nitpick. So I don't like it when people nitpick stuff, but like people make some points. Like there's a scene where like Michael Caine, Michael Caine, Alfred. By the way, unfortunately, he won an Oscar around the same time he was making this film, but unfortunately, he was not there to accept the award because he was making this film. Yeah. But like there's a part where like he falls in the water, and then the next clip his shirt is dry. Like I did not notice that until like people pointed it out. And then you got to look at the background. You could tell like it's a fake background because the water is like swooshing up against it. And I'm like, dude, like I thought I had perfect eyes. You were gonna say
And no,
something?
there's a reason why, because for the original ending, I
Mhm.
mean, well, for the second ending, in the original ending, Jake, which is he's the close pal of Michael in the film. He's like a researcher
Mm,
or something, whatever you want to call it. But he pretty much dies in the
mm,
original ending. And since a lot of people in the theaters, when they were asking for their opinions, they said, "Why did that guy die? He was probably like the most funniest guy in the. He's the
yeah.
one of the reasons people were still watching the film and didn't walk out of a theater." So again, last minute decision. They brought him back somehow. He got bit by the shark. It looked like it was a pretty nasty bite too.
Yeah.
And then he's like, as soon as it blows up, he appeared. Like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, if y'all don't want to watch the movie, if y'all want to have fun, I recommend watching Chris Duckman's Hilariosity review of the. If y'all don't know who Chris Duckman is, he's a film critic. Well, not I wouldn't say film critic anymore because he's making his own film now, which I'm pretty excited for. Yeah, when he would do like early reviews, he did one called Hilariosity, which is like making fun of bad films. So he did Jaws of Revenge, and it's laughable. Yeah, I mean, like despite the sequels, I mean, Jaws is again the one that started it all. Again, sparked Spielberg's career. He eventually, guys, by the way, majority of this is going to be about Spielberg because he's pretty much the one who like kicked it off, at 27, 28, because he did more than just Jaws. He also did E.T., and E.T. was like his childhood thing to make. And it's like,
It's like a
eh,
culmination of what he did.
yeah,
Because I mean, if people are watching Meet the Fablemans or have read into his life, one of the first films he wanted to do, as short films in general, was just related to like the mystery behind aliens and possibly other life around like in other worlds. So yeah, ET was just like that, like culmination of everything he grew up with and was interested in. It all came together. I mean, yeah, Close
yeah.
Encounters of the Third Kind was another thing before ET, but
Oh, yeah, I forgot
again,
about Close
it was
Encounters.
all like ET was the culmination.
Yeah, I forgot about Close Encounters. That was also Richard Dreyfuss' second film with Steven. And of all the trios, of the mighty trio from the first one, he's the only one that remains standing. Robert Shaw unfortunately passed away 3 years later from a fatal heart attack. And then Roy Schneider died in the early 2000s, I believe. And yeah,
Yeah, for the same reason too. It was crazy. Heart
yeah,
attack.
yeah. So Richard Dreyfuss is the last one standing. And I think he's still acting a bit. Yeah, like he still kind of has the same voice, even like nearly 50 years later. He's still kicking along with Eastwood. If you've never seen Close Encounters, you guys actually got to see that one. That's a really good film. We saw it a long time ago. We actually saw it in theaters, and
Yeah, Labor Day weekend.
that was
Remember
also
that?
my first time ever seeing the film. So it's like I seen the trailer only once, and like guys, I'm gonna let y'all know something. Just watch a trailer once, and if it looks like it's revealing, just turn it off and just expect what's coming next because it really like showed the magic. Because I think that and ET again too. By the way, guys, Close Encounters came out the same year as Star Wars and literally competed against each other at the Oscars. We'll get to Star Wars if we have time. Yeah, Close Encounters and ET is like Spielberg's childhood. It's like, his version of Peter Pan of like having a happy childhood almost. Nothing about like a kid growing up or never growing up. I mean, like, where a kid can still be a kid. Because E.T. is such a great film for kids. It has two great kids. E.T. has like a very, very young Drew Barrymore, like early on in her career. And then Henry Thomas, by the way, if y'all have to watch Henry Thomas's audition tape. It's like, by the way, he's from San Antonio, so yeah, go to
Yo,
yeah, you got to see the tape, but it's literally about like when a boy makes a friend and you discover like what does this friend want and how discovering this friend. And the government wants to, of course, extract the alien because, of course, Area 51 and all that. I mean, like I remember you telling me this, and even I was had to admit this. Like when ET is like dying, he's scary because of like how weak he is.
Not afraid to admit. I mean, literally, the first time I watched it on VHS, as soon as I saw him like in that shower,
Yeah.
of what Henry or at least Elliot
Yeah,
trying
Elliot.
to tell him, and then the reveal to his mom that that's who he is. It freaked the heck out of me. And then as soon as she takes him to go outside or to get out of the house, next thing you know, these government officials come in and they look like, I mean, yeah, they got helmets that are resembling astronauts or whatever, but that freaked me the heck out. So I
Yeah.
remember turning it off, and I didn't watch it for a whole month
Yeah.
until my dad said, "Just put it on. You haven't seen the rest of it." I was like, "I know, but that scared me."
Yeah. No, but it's like, dude, I think when we all first saw that film, like, even if you had not seen the trailers before that, because around that time, that's when, like, when I first heard of ET, it was their 20th anniversary, which I thought was actually a recent, like, I thought there was a film that came out in 2002 at the time. And turns out, oh, it's a film that came out in 1982. Oh, okay. We all thought ET died. But then, like, it sounds corny, but the power of love, no pun intended, because of what we're going to be talking about later on. But the power of love, brings this creature back. It's like showing how much you actually care for something, even if to others' eyes it's not human. And again, I don't mean to get like political and all that. You love people despite what they are. Again, and there's a great score by John Williams, who won the Oscar that year. He won the Oscar for Jaws and eventually for E.T. Unfortunately, E.T. lost the Oscars that year to Gandhi. And no disrespect to the film, that's a really good film.
No,
Richard Attenborough, who will eventually work with Steven, did a great job. Even he has to admit, like, he thought E.T. had it in the bag. But yeah, if you haven't seen Gandhi, I'm gonna let you know it's a slow burner because it does have an intermission. So when intermissions are in films, they're long and they're slow, but it's very like interesting.
oh yes,
But I like to say it wasn't Spielberg's time because eventually he would went on to win for Schindler's List. But he did get nominated for a bunch of other films that the year before Raiders of the Lost Ark. We will not be talking about Indiana Jones, by the way, Seuss, because I want to watch the film. Unfortunately, like I just want to see this film that way we can actually talk about it later on. So that's
you
fine with
mean
you.
the one that's coming out, right?
Yeah, I know the reviews at this point are like
At this
Kath-
point, it's like I knew this was gonna happen.
Kathleen
I know. We're not
Kennedy.
supposed to talk about it, but just small tangent. I knew that was gonna happen from the very start when they had first announced this film. I think everybody and their grandma already knew at this point what was gonna happen.
Yeah.
But it's two things. The only reason why we're gonna go, at least I think you and I know, the only two reasons why we're going. It's gonna be Harrison Ford's last outing, and
Mhm.
it's gonna be John Williams' apparent last outing as a
Oh
composer for
wow.
cinema. And
Yeah.
that's practically the sole reason why I'm gonna go watch it.
Yeah, so yeah, guys, unfortunately, we won't be talking about the Indiana Jones films on this episode because yeah, they came out in the summer, but and we actually did see Raiders of the Lost Ark in theaters. We saw a lot of good old films in theaters, but yeah, even though they came out in the summer, I kind of want to like hold that off until the next film, and we might have thoughts that are probably differ from the actual like media. Like I know like most conservatives like Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro will not watch the movie. And I'm nothing against those guys. I actually watched the Daily Wire. I'm getting canceled for that, by the way, because the Daily Wire is a conservative thing and anti-woke, whatever. Yeah, we are gonna talk about some other films. Yeah, Steven Spielberg, king of blockbusters, E.T. We'll actually talk about another one pretty soon. We'll take a break right now. Other than that, stick around. All right, welcome back. Still talking about summer blockbusters because, summer's approaching or around the corner, depending on when I get this out. Hopefully, it's not December and, it's very like whatever. Okay, let's talk about a trilogy that actually is worth watching, the infamous Back to the Future. Dude, I'm gonna be honest with you, like 1985, the special effects still hold up to this day.
To this day,
Yeah.
it's like, man,
If y'all don't know, I hate to say if y'all don't know because it's like y'all should know these films. Okay, so what Chris, I yes, I do talk about Chris Stuckman a lot, but what he says is, people are born every day. That's like the excuse, or not the excuse, but like it's the general, like like people are born every day. So obviously, they haven't seen Back to the Future. You've introduced me to it. Thank you, by the way. But you said originally you saw it in Spanish, or was it?
yeah. So
Uh,
on TV, they for any of our Spanish speakers or anybody who remembers this as a kid, before we had Unimas or Univision, we had this thing called Unimas was originally called Telefutura.
mm,
So they would show a whole bunch of movies from the golden times. At least not I'm not talking about the golden era of cinema, which is like 60s, but they would show you things from the 80s and 90s. That's how I really got introduced to Back to the Future, if we're talking about that. That was always at night. and they would show it one or two times. They would show all three films, and yeah, I mean that's pretty much how I got introduced to it.
Yeah, great film. Produced or executive produced by Steven Spielberg. The film was entirely directed by Robert Zemeckis. If y'all don't know who Robert Zemeckis is, again, made these three films. You show me the video. He stuck with just three films. He didn't want to like continue and be like, oh, we're gonna, Universal was not greedy entirely with this. Yeah,
No, and it's also another thing that they both signed contracts when Universal was basically like saying we desperately need to make a sequel, and we're gonna do it with or without you. So both Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, the writer, they both knew okay, we know what's gonna happen. They're gonna make it with or without us. So let's go ahead and tell them and make the proposition. We'll make two more films. We will have everybody involved again. Well,
yeah, we'll
mostly
get to
involved.
that. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. The only condition is everything they can do when merchandise or shows, whatever they want to do, they can do. But in terms of a direct continuation, in terms of to the films, they cannot, under any circumstance, make a fourth film until they both die.
Yeah, fortunately, at that point, because we know Michael J. Fox is literally at his last points of his life. The same thing with Christopher Lloyd, who were the stars of this film. By the way, I met Christopher Lloyd. Oh man, I'm gonna let y'all know. So when I was getting in line to get a picture with Christopher Lloyd, and yes, I am not joking. I actually have a full picture with him. I can literally show y'all if y'all ever want to see. When I was going to take a photo with Christopher Lloyd, there was literally a guy behind me going, "Oh my God, it's Christopher Lloyd!" I'm like, "Dude, calm down. All right, it's just Christopher Lloyd." But as soon as I showed up, I was like, "Oh my God, it's Christopher Lloyd!" Yeah, the only thing that just came out of my mouth was "Great Scott," which is the infamous line that Doc Brown says in the film. This is a film that, if you ever try to debate the title, you really have to entirely watch the film, because Stranger Things have, I know you haven't seen it, but I know Stranger Things have literally talked about the title, or somebody's asking why can't it be called Back to the Past, and because he has to go back to the future. But it's literally about a kid named Marty who somehow is friends with an older guy named Doc. That's, again, reality out the window. But even then, how does he know Doc? Because Doc's 50 and Marty's 17, and Doc invented a time machine out of a DeLorean. And yes, I'm saying the line because why not? You're telling me you built a time machine out of a DeLorean? Hold on. We didn't start this off, Jesus. We got to start off right.
Okay.
Marty, you got to come back with me.
Where?
Back to the future. I was literally practicing it before we started. But yeah, that's always the great line. But yeah, he invented a time machine out of a car. And you said there was a reason for that, right?
Yeah, as far as I remember, he said, the line's going, if I remember correctly, if you're gonna build a time machine, why not build it with some style?
Yeah. And then
Besides, something about he starts then going on explaining something about the time dispersal, and as he's about to explain it, he was saying something about why not build the time machine with style, but then he was about to explain the scientific explanation with the time dispersal, and then as soon as he's about to explain that, Einstein comes back from his little escapade.
Oh yeah, because Einstein was the first time traveler. Einstein was the dog. He put him in the DeLorean. By the way, if you've never heard of a DeLorean, it's because they don't make those anymore. It's because of a whole dispute with the creator of the car. It's unfortunate, but now if you ever try to find a DeLorean, it's gonna be rare and it's gonna be a lot of money.
It's the dream car for me, though. I'm still waiting. Well, I'm gonna use much.
Yeah, still cool car though. And you guys know, I'm the type of guy that's I should drift away from because yes, the owner got into some legal disputes and all that, but that's where I'm the car's still good. As soon as Doc was about to go to the future because he wanted to check out the World Series, gets killed by Libyans, which of course at that time we were actually in dispute with Libya or majority of the Middle East because what Saddam Hussein was still.
I think that's when he was still a big time political
dictator
figure
or whatever. Yeah. And Marty accidentally goes back in time because he was trying to outrun the Libyans, but he forgets that once the car pushes 88 miles per hour, it starts to send you back. If you want me to explain the science, the flux capacitor, or we can make it easier and watch the movie, because just us talking about it, and especially the entire series in general, it's doesn't do justice. You know what I mean?
It's like the one film. If they tell you there's one film you need to watch, and a lot of the just describing it, a lot of the new generation don't watch old movies. They watch whatever is out now. If there's one film, parents or whoever you might be who's grew up with this film or watched it, and you have nieces, nephews, and the like that have never seen it, this is the one film you should show them. Just the one. I guarantee you, they will look on their phones for about maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes, And then as soon as Libya comes around, they will be glued to the
Yeah.
screen for the rest of the
Yeah.
film.
Yeah, no, I don't think I've ever picked up the phone every time I watch this film. Literally the entire series. Yeah, but Marty goes back in time and he goes back to 1955, which is the time when Doc Brown supposedly said he thought of time travel. I mentioned earlier the flux capacitor, which is what creates time travel. And if you're wondering the whole Libyan thing, because we literally swooped past that part, is because Doc Brown stole some plutonium from Libyans and the whole political dispute. But he said like the Libyans wanted them to make a bomb, and then he decided to use that plutonium as part of the flux capacitor, which is again the thing that he created time travel with. But he goes back to 1955 when Doc Brown thought of time travel or discovered time travel when he said he bumped his head on the toilet. But like he thinks it's like all a dream. You get the infamous Mr. Sandman, which if you've seen Halloween 2, that's also been played in there. And yeah, this was the 50s. Ronald Reagan, if y'all know he was a president, he was actually also an actor. So you'll see a movie saying starring Ronald Reagan, which is funny because like it does come in the Reagan era.
And who's vice president?
Jerry Lewis. At that point,
That's it.
I feel like at that point, Nancy Reagan was the actual president. It's kind of weird because I will get to it in a sec. He runs into his dad, who was a teenager, played by Crispin Glover, and he sees like his dad's old bully, who was still a bully even in the modern times because like his family is very dysfunctional. Like it looks like his parents are on the verge of like getting divorced.
Divorce.
His sister has no love life. His brother has a dead end job, which we've all had in our past. Really, the dead end job part, but he sees, and his dad is still getting harassed by their high school bully. And like he sees them really young, and he sees like his dad has never stuck up for himself. He chases his dad, and like there's a mention of like how his parents first met. He said like Marty said his grandfather hit his dad with the car because his dad was quote unquote bird watching and fell off a tree. Well, bird watching in the 50s was seeing a woman undressed, and he was like, he's a peeping Tom. And then like his dad falls off the tree. He stupidly pushes his dad out of the way when the car was about to hit him, and then he gets hit by the car. And then Marty meets his mom as a teenager, and now his mom has the hots for him. And by the way, this was a film that was actually pitched to Disney, and that one part was like, yeah, we're not doing it. Now the entire film is literally like he not only has to go back to the future, now he has to bring his parents together because he accidentally disrupted the part where the time when his parents met. So like he has a photo of him and his brother and sister. They're starting to fade away from time and existence themselves because of that disruption. So not only does he have to like go back, now he has to bring his parents back together, which is like when you watch this film, it's like it's also funny because like you see like how nervous his dad was at the time, how much he was into writing, and he didn't even know his dad liked to write science fiction because, as mentioned, his dad never stuck up for himself or never seized the moment. But there's just a lot you can say about this series, by the way.
So much. Like, I mean, if we had the chance, we'd make a whole podcast episode over this entire trilogy.
I could, but we'll stick to the abridged version for now. But because in the entire film, because like the mom still has the hots for Marty and not knowing that's her son, now it's getting even more difficult to bring his parents together. So like they made this whole ruse, him and the younger Doc Brown, who he ran into. And by the way, if you guys are wondering like how long does this movie take? It takes an actual week because the reason why Marty can't go back is because there's no plutonium in.
Yeah, and you can't get it in 1955. It's pretty hard at this point.
I mean, you really can't get it in general unless I don't know, unless it's off the black market.
I mean, you could, but like I'm okay. Since if I'm correct in saying this, I believe plutonium is an actual element on the periodic table. You can get the smallest bit. I mean, my camera, yeah, like about that much legally.
Dang.
You can get everything else. Yeah, you have to go for the black market.
Yeah, well, even in 85, they couldn't find plutonium. But like what the younger Doc Brown said was that the only way to get plutonium is a bolt of lightning. Luckily, Marty knows where to get one because he was given a flyer about the infamous bell tower that was struck by lightning precisely in that moment that he was sent back in time. So, by the way, guys, my sister and I have done this so many times, but we've calculated literally like, so the clock strikes at 10:04, that's when the lightning gets struck. So we've literally like calculated like time when the clock strikes 10 to when he actually goes back in time. And in real time, he probably would have stayed stuck in 1955
he would
forever.
have stayed stuck. There's no way Doc would have would be that quick enough to get up when he had fell, when he
Yeah.
zip lined himself, and then move to unhook both ends at the same time. At speed of light, there's no way you can basically beat speed of light.
And of course, what was it? Not die when you're getting shocked by lightning when he's putting the two wires back together. Because
Yeah,
like they made this whole. It's funny because in the scene, there's a scene where it's like I made this 3D diagram. I'm sorry if it's not like the actual thing. I'm like, dude,
it's like the
yeah,
best thing you've done.
yeah. But it's a great film, by the way, guys. And yes, there's gonna be a scene where the mother kisses her son. Of course, she doesn't know it, but she soon realizes that it doesn't feel right for obvious reasons. Of course, Biff is. By the way, he's the antagonist. I wouldn't say the entire series, but at least the first two movies. But Thomas F. Wilson does come back for the third film as a direct ancestor of Biff Tanner. But like he's been harassing everyone, like Marty's parents when they were teenagers and Marty himself. It's also funny because like this, if y'all don't know who Billy Zane is, this is like early on in Billy Zane's career. Billy Zane was like the fiance in the Titanic films. He also played the Phantom in a film
Mhm.
called Phantom. You don't really hear from him much, but this was like early in his career. He played with like one of Biff's thugs. Then you got Johnny B. Good, the infamous Johnny B. Good scene, where like he starts out playing Johnny B. Good. Literally, I found this out 3 years before it actually was released by Chuck Berry. And it's funny because like the band he was playing was led by Chuck Berry's cousin. Like not actually guys, but like
Right, but
in
in the
that
movie,
reality, yeah. And then he goes off with like a metal rant and he's like, well, you can say it if you want to.
he's like, I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet, but your kids are gonna love it.
Well, they did, sir. They obviously did. But the entire third act, guys, it's like you're on your seat. I've seen this film so many times and I'm still on my seat because like you're just rooting for Marty to get back because like they built a diagram of how they were gonna, set Marty back in time. They made a clothesline that's made by wire that they connected to the car. And if he drives at the exact same speed at the exact same time, which again, not plausible, but again, throwing reality out the window for these films, then he would go back. But also throughout the film, he's trying to tell Doc about like his fate in the beginning of the film that he gets shot by terrorists. But Doc says no because it disrupts the space time continuum. And like he even sneaks a letter into Doc's jacket, and Doc finds it, rips it apart, and Marty decides to go back 10 minutes early
To
in
try to
19.
stop it.
Yeah, to try to stop it. But like Marty does successfully go to back to 1985, and he thought he's too late. And then he sees that Doc is still alive, and he's like, "How?" And it turns out Doc just put the letter back together, and he says, I figured, what the hell?" Yeah, because he gets a bulletproof vest, and then Doc decides to go to the future, and then that it leaves with a cliffhanger that like Marty gets reunited with his girlfriend. However, his reality is a lot different because in the film, his dad finally sticks up for himself and punches Biff in the face, and then they he finally brings his dad and his mom together. How do we forget that scene, by the way? I think
Well, no, it's more like we were just talking much about what's going on and
yeah,
overall. But I'm
I know.
thinking, like I said, no matter what you just said at the beginning, we can talk about it all the time. But it's our conversations over the piece and reminiscing is not doesn't justify
I
for you
know.
to not watch it.
I
You
know,
need
but
to.
like you guys gotta watch it. Like we're just rambling on about it, but it does end on a cliffhanger. Like I said, Marty's reality is different now because now his parents are even more happy. Biff, their bully, now works for them as like their car washer or whatever. His brother is a lawyer, I believe, or
Think
a
so.
business.
Yes.
And then apparently, and now I'm gonna say this just so I can be funny. His sister's a slut now, but no, really, she just has like a bunch of boyfriends. Even like
Yes.
the brother says, I can't keep up with all your boyfriends. Like, but yeah, and then his dad has a successful novel, so like it's like, oddly enough, like everything around Marty, but Marty changed. And then he has a girlfriend, he's reunited with her, and then Doc comes back and says, Marty, we gotta come back with me. Where? Back to the future. And then, he's like, hey Doc, you might want to go back. There's not enough road to go 88. Roads where we're going, we don't need
Bro.
roads. And then the car flies, and yes,
Dude, I swear, when I was a kid, when those tires flipped on its side, I was like, "Bruh, we're going! It's
yeah,
happening!"
yeah, and like a long time, like there could be a time where like you could watch like the Back to the Future films as entirely, or if you don't like the sequels, which I mean, I like the sequels; they're really good. Of course, they don't hold up as the originals, but it's the only summer trilogy I would say. Well, I don't think the second one actually came out in the summer of '88 or '89. I think it actually came out November, but
I think so, yeah.
either way, like the sequels are actually can do justice for the first film because like unlike other blockbusters, which again we're gonna try to get to as much, they don't do justice for the first film, as we mentioned with Jaws. But the second film, in their universe, it takes place in okay, in 88 it took place in the future. Now it takes place in the past because it came out in 2015. Because I remember back then when Instagram wasn't as updated as it is now. People would make a big deal that, October 15th, 2015, which is when they showed up to the future. And even Jimmy Kimmel did a whole bit about it, even inviting like Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd. And basically the story is they went back to stop Marty's son from doing something illegal. And then Marty wanted to buy this almanac, which contains details from 1950 to 2000 about about like the winning sports and all that. So he wanted to like place bets. He was cheating basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, he was placing bets on the winners within that era. But what he didn't know is that Biff saw everything, including past Biff, who saw the car fly to the future. And Biff took the almanac, sent it back to 1955's Biff. Yes, this is a lot of time travel and a lot of explanation. Again, watch the series. And because he sent the almanac to 1955's Biff, and now Biff is like betting on the winners, it changed their reality big time. Like Marty's dad is murdered. Now Biff is Marty's stepfather, and Marty's mom is in an abusive relationship. And there's a deleted scene in that film where like we find out that like Marty's brother is like on the streets, like he's a hobo now. I don't know why they took it out, but it would have been him. But I guess it also would
The
have
reason
like,
why is because, like, if they left that in, then the audience would say, "So where's his sister?" And while
mm,
at the time his sister, like the actress, was pregnant, so
oh,
they weren't
okay,
going to. She didn't have time to be in it.
yeah. Now they have to go back to 1955, and it's also a famous line in that film. We gotta say it. You don't believe it, Doc? We gotta go back to 1955.
I don't believe it.
It's funny. And it's like he's also because they go back to 1955, but they have to remind themselves that now there's two Martys and two Docs in 1955. And if they interact with each other, which eventually they actually did unknowingly, again, disrupt the space-time continuum. But long story short, they did manage to like take the almanac away from Biff. And dude, like Biff is like this big figure, like in all three eras, 85, 15, and 55. He's a pretty good villain, and I don't know why we don't like acknowledge it that much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's like put it in perspective. They teach this. I mean,
Yeah,
they teach this screenplay for the original film. At least they teach this as a way of showing this is the perfect film. It's how it's all written. I mean, every single character has enough character, so to speak, to make the audience pitch in. The whole point is you want the audience to pretty much like what's the term, like, to go all in on this whole thing, to go all in on the characters, and that's exactly what both Bob Gale both accomplished. And so,
yeah,
I mean, they brought it into the second and third film, and yeah, of course, I mean, second, third films again, they don't really stand up to the original, but I see it as the perfect trilogy.
yeah,
No matter what you do, you can pop in part two. Your excitement, your hype levels are not going to go down from watching part two. They're going to go up. And
yeah,
then by three, if you're still in it, sure. I mean, it's a different era, but it's the era that only made sense.
yeah,
What else would you do? I mean, would you do the '60s? Probably not.
yeah,
It'd just be like part one all over again. So it made sense for them to go to the West and have their send off like that. But it's pretty much across the
yeah.
board. Every character is perfectly well written.
Yeah, no, yeah. So I'm just gonna briefly go to the third film because the ending of the second film, the DeLorean and Doc, who was in the DeLorean, they get struck by lightning and disappear. And then a mailman shows up at the exact moment and gives Doc Marty a letter. And they're like, "Well, we held this letter for nearly 75 years," and and they're all placing bets. Like, we never thought this Marty guy would ever showed up. I guess I lost.
Yeah.
And and it turns out Doc went to 1885 when they got struck by lightning. The time machine, the DeLorean itself, and Doc went to 1885. And then at the end, Marty returns to the 1955 Doc. And then it carries on to the next film where they find out like what happened to, 85 Doc. And at this point, guys, you don't really know who the real Doc Brown is because there's like so many timelines that he goes to. So really, when the 1955 Doc was said like he's agreed to like help Marty again go back to the future to 1985, they found out that Doc in 1885 gets shot in the back by Buford Mad Dog Tannen, which is Biff Tannen's ancestor, again played by Thomas F. Wilson. So they decided to send Marty back to 1885, so many time travels, as I mentioned, to get Doc Brown. And at that point, Doc Brown falls in love with a woman in 1885. And there's always, I think what I love about this storyline is like it's a conflict of like do you want to go back, or do you want to like forget the life that you left, you built, because like now he's in love with someone that he shouldn't be in love with because it's a different era. And by the way, I like that it's a Western. And I know a lot of people don't like Westerns, but it's an interesting, like what they did. It's like science fiction and now Western. The other problem is that cars don't, this was an era before cars. They had to
Hmm.
figure out like how are we gonna do that. And I love that they decided to use a locomotive to like help push the boundaries. You know what I mean? But like internal struggles happen. Tara was trying Kara
Yeah, Clara.
Clayton. Yeah, Clara
Yes,
Clayton.
Clara Clay.
Yeah. She now loves Emmett Brown. And in the beginning, like Brown was had to leave because, different era. But because how much they love each other, like she was willing to go with them. Well, not really. She just hopped on the train at the wrong moment. And they said, well, they're either gonna have to take her with us, but because there was so much conflict happening with the train, because they were putting in these big old logs in there that's gonna like blow up every time the locomotive goes faster and faster. It came to the point where Doc Brown had to stay behind and Marty goes to the future. But of course, you get the locomotive time machine, which is really, really cool. Yeah. And then they get their sons, Jules Brown, Vern Brown, because the characters love Jules Verne. Weird, interesting side note, but I don't know. You and I've read, Journey to the Center of the Earth. I've read 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea, as well as not the Mysterious Island. If you guys know where Nemo came from, it's from Jules Verne.
One more. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, great series. What we said, it doesn't do justice, but I always say, I recommend watching this. It's like you would miss out if you have not seen this trilogy. And we mentioned earlier about not everyone returning. It's because Crispin Glover didn't return for the second and third film. And you said, what did you say the reason was again?
It was simply because he believed he wasn't getting paid enough, but also because he wanted to have a say. At least I think this is coming, if I remember correctly. He wanted to have a say in how his character would be portrayed in the coming sequels because he absolutely hated the ending to the
Mm-hmm.
original. He
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
like the fact that how they all started as like a dysfunctional family, only turning out to be like the Hollywood ending that every is pretty much non-existent in real life. So yeah, he didn't like the ending to that. And yeah, when they asked him to do the sequel, he just said, "Well, why am I getting paid less than Leah and Thomas F. Wilson?" So they had their own little debacle about that. Next thing you know, one thing led to another, and he just declined to come back. So that led to them saying, "Well, why don't we just focus? At least the central focus of the sequel be he loses his dad."
Mm.
Instead of having to have him be a part of the adventure, just kill him because we don't have Crispin Glover, so we can't really use him. But yeah, so forth to speaking, I mean, it led into again, it's important not only to the history of blockbusters, but it's also important to the history of just how laws in cinema are now made. Because I mean, they pretty much robbed his likeness onto another actor
Mm-hmm.
for the second film. And as a result of that, he basically said like, "Hey, yo, that's not right. I mean, I should have got like none of you asked me permission for this, and well, we went to court. Sooner or later, it was written into law that now you have to ask before you can use a actor's or a person's likeness."
Yeah, again, great trilogy, great score by Alan Silvestri, which we've nearly overlooked. For those who don't know, he
Nobody
actually,
knows that, right?
yeah,
I mean, sorry, yes. Like, if you don't know who Alan Silvestri is, you're living under a rock because he's the guy who's he's basically made the music for almost every Avengers film that has come out.
yeah,
And if nobody knows that, then you're living under a rock.
yeah. It's because like Chris Duckman like was joking around with like the whole like saying like Alan Silvestri's Oscar-winning score, and he's joking around saying like, wait, he didn't win? He didn't even get nominated, which I'm like,
Yeah,
which yeah, he wasn't nominated for the score, which is a crime itself, but. The first film, I think all of them, or maybe just the first one, got the special effects. They won best special effects at the Academy Awards. It could just be the first film, but I'm pretty
I
sure the
think
second.
so.
I'm pretty sure the second and third were nominated in the same category, or at least just the second film. Because like I feel like the third film to most people can be like the forgotten triplet, which is
Yeah,
a crime within itself because it's actually really good. Again, they don't hold up as the first one is, but again, it's a trilogy, which is like a trilogy one and done. It's not like Star Wars where they can like keep milking it off and like, you know what I mean? Yes, they made a TV show which did not last very long, and then there was Back to the Future at Universal Studios. According,
the,
it
the
no
greatest
longer exists.
ride, the greatest ride. I'm sorry, but unfortunately, everybody who's never ridden it, I feel I'm sorry. Like it's the greatest ride of all time. Once they took it down and gave us Simpsons, it was like there's nothing else.
Yeah, we're gonna take another break right now, and we're gonna be talking about another Steven Spielberg classic. Don't go anywhere. Okay, guys, welcome back. Right now, as we said, Steven Spielberg is the king of summer blockbusters because Jaws, E.T., now the Jurassic Park. Just to save time, we're not going to go over like the entire plot because there's a lot of movies, but pretty much it's based off a book by Michael Crichton, which is pretty much the same thing. John Hammond created well, not hybrid dinosaurs, but he created dinosaurs based off the mosquito DNA, which I'm surprised
Which in
this.
itself is basically technically, if you want to call it that, it technically is hybrid because it's coming out of coming out of the blood of an insect when
Yeah.
it could have been coming out of the actual bones of the dinosaur. But yeah,
Well, it is actually still a hybrid because in the film they mentioned that they had to use certain frog DNA to fill in some type of
to complete the
gaps.
genetic code, yes.
Okay, I don't pay attention to the scientific details. I just pay attention to how it's made. But yeah, made by Michael Crichton's film. Michael Crichton's book is darker than in the film because like the kills are actually a lot more graphic. Like the scene where Nidri, I can never pronounce the dude's name. Fatso's
No, that's exactly how you say it. Yeah,
Okay, I'll just call him Fatso, but then I'll get canceled for saying that. Nidri, when he gets killed by the Dilophosaurus, you only see like the attack from outside when you see the truck get rattled and like him getting attacked. But in the book, like they said, like it like clawed his stomach and like his guts are pouring out, and then the ending of the book apparently Campi, I think that's what they're called. Apparently,
Mhm.
somehow they made it to Costa Rica because the entire island of Isla Sorna is off Costa Rica. But somehow these Campis made it to Costa Rica and started pecking a baby to death. Like, yeah, like I said, the book is a lot graphic. And I think there is a second book. Uh,
Yes, the Lost World.
yeah, I've never read it or even put into the plot details about it. But yeah, of course, it has the great trio. Remind me, Laura
Yeah,
Dern.
you mean like the actors? I mean,
Yeah,
you got Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and
Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum.
Dude, okay, so a little side note. His sister and I actually met Jeff Goldblum like 5 years ago. Guys, I'm gonna let y'all know this. He loves his fans. Like we were like most of like people like us, we like to like give people space, because people value space. Him on the
Yes.
other hand, he grabs both of us, pulls him both of us together. Like he really loves interacting with his fans, like he's so awesome, tall, but really awesome. But yeah, like it starts like those people, and sadly we don't see him again until the recent film that came out last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, pretty much like I said, John Hammond created dinosaurs from the blood DNA that they found in the sap of a mosquito, and like he invited like these people, Sam Neill's character, Alan
Alan
Grant,
Grant.
Laura, Dr. Sattler, they're paleontologists and paleobotanists. I know that sounds bad. I'm just gonna say people who study dinosaurs and people who study extinct plants. That's pretty much what it is. And like they said, like, oh, I made this theme park and I want y'all to like get y'all's perspectives on it. And he invites him, his lawyer, John Hammond's lawyer, because there's a big dispute that happened in the beginning of the film. And then, of course, Ian Malcolm, who is a mathematician, but he's like the voice of reason in this entire series. Like he
Remember, he's
literally,
not only just a mathematician; he's a chaotician.
yeah,
Claims to be the only one.
yeah, like, well, yeah, and no one listened to him. Like he literally says, like God made these things extinct for a reason, and man is not supposed to interfere with like nature's like plan or whatever. And he's right. And it's not really John Hammond's fault because Nidri, like you could say the human antagonist of this film, because there's three. There's Nidri, there's the Tyrannosaurus, which we'll get to, and then there's the Velociraptors. Some claim Velociraptors are the main antagonists of this film. I will argue and say the Tyrannosaurus Rex is, but we can agree to disagree on that. Or they both share like the same stance.
Equal amount, yeah.
Yeah, but Nidri just like took out the power, and because he took out the power, because he needed to collect dino DNA for a rival group that is competing against John Hammond, which did not succeed. But
Well, unless you do count what would eventually become, because look, here's the thing: Michael Crichton, as far as I can remember, I believe in the book, still the whole plot detail of that is still within the film,
yeah,
except he at least gives him a name, and I believe it's Biosyn, which is the name that would
yeah,
eventually appear in the final film. But
yeah,
anyway,
yeah, because like because he's even paid off by like the owner of Biosyn, Dotson. At that point, was played by a different actor from what was played in the last film. But like yeah, if y'all know, he gets the Cool Whip, the shaving cream container that has like this cooler in it. I cannot explain the science, but guys, but he says like it keeps the embryos cool enough. And the thing is that like they're all female embryos because BD Wong's character, help me, Dr. Henry Wu said that all dinosaurs on the island are female, which we always forget because anything big mean we think male for some reason. I don't know. Yeah, he took all the embryos and like of course we mentioned earlier his fate, but like the introductions of every single dinosaur still gives me goosebumps, especially when they see the Brontosaurus Rex. Again, special effects hold up to this day. Yeah. And then man, the Tyrannosaurus Rex's entrance is like the big thing. Yes, there's a big of a debate of like how, because like it looks like she's stepping on ground, but then there's a part where like she's pushing the car off and then there's a big cliff for some reason. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know how, but I'm not paying attention to that. But it's like that entrance, dude, and the sound design. Funny enough is that this film came out the same year as Schindler's List, which both films won Oscars. I mean, it was nominated for Best Picture, Jurassic Park, because again, competing against Schindler's List, which is like, because for those who don't know, Steven Spielberg comes from a Jewish background, so like he feels like to his people that's his story he needs to say. Still a great film though if you haven't seen it. It's a tough film to watch, guys, because if any Holocaust film, you really gonna have to sit through it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, same year, but Jurassic Park did eventually win Best Sound at the Oscars, and I think Best Special Effects, so it's well deserved. Come on, how could you not? Especially like the design they made for the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the Raptors. The Raptors' entrances.
That and then the Triceratops, like,
Oh my
ooh,
gosh. Yeah, dude, it's like I think this why people love the first film so much. It's just because like when we're first introduced to actual dinosaurs, like on screen, like in the big screen, like it's happened before, but it's like to B movies as well as like it was introduced to in King Kong, the original 1933. But that was like claymate, that was what they had to use back then for their special effects. This was like robots and like barely CGI. This is
this
all
is
just
like when Phil Tippett, which is again a phenomenal person, very, very, very high esteemed up there amongst with the greats. But like he was asked to create dinosaurs with claymation, because that was the only way at the time that we like in the 90s. That
yeah.
was at the time the only way you could still incorporate things like this. And then two gentlemen, I forget their names, but they were working with the film. They were with the company ILM, which was the same company that made the special effects for the Star Wars films and Back to the Future and whatnot.
Mm,
They were able to crack the code. They made the first CGI dinosaur,
yeah.
and his Hollywood changed.
Yeah. So basically, like a couple of characters survived. Sam Jackson's in this film, like a lot of films, but he didn't survive. But yeah, and then at the end, Sam Neill's character is like, "Yeah, I decided not to."
He's like, after careful consideration, I have decided not to endorse your park.
And Sam is like, "As do I." And then they drive off, and Hammond looks, and he's like, "Man, all my work gone." But it was worth it because like his grandkids, he brought his grandkids, if you haven't seen the film, and they got endangered. They nearly got killed, but the Tyrannosaurus Rex came out. And then eventually, like, yeah, it ends with like them seeing actual birds at their like birds, not pterodons. Yeah, and then of course another great score by Spielberg. Dun 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 dun. Hopefully I don't get copyrighted just for doing that. But yeah, and then of course money talks. They decided to make a sequel, which didn't star either Laura Dern or Sam Neill. It just had Jeff Goldblum.
And
Basically,
Richard Attenborough just for the smart cameo.
yeah. And basically, it's just basically there's another island. So if I was to break it down, there's an island that was supposed to be the theme park, but then there's an island called Isla Sorna, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Isla Nublar is where the park is. Isla Sorna is where they create the dinosaurs. But unlike Isla Nublar intendedly, Isla Sorna, there was no like cages or anything. They let the dinosaurs
Free
roam
game.
free. And like apparently Hammond has a greedy nephew that like who knows about it and wants to buy off like all the dinosaurs and sell it off for trade, which is a plot that's used in
Every other film moving forward.
yeah,
But if I can say something, again, I know we can't talk much about the sequels, just at
yeah,
least up to like the Lost World, because it makes sense. It's made by
yeah.
Spielberg. Even if that character, if I remember
The
his name
nephew?
escapes me at the nephew. His name
Yeah.
escapes me at the moment. But here's a small tangent of mine. Okay, I get it. The fifth film is considered to be one of the most controversial points for
Yeah,
fans. It split fans. It split. I mean, I genuinely didn't like it when it came out.
yeah.
Now, when I rewatch it a couple of times, I can see the actual horror aspect. Like the horror has
Hmm.
been riveted to 11. The first film, if you want to really call it a horror film, when they have jump scares and stuff, I mean, yeah, it spooks us, it scares us, and that's what they did successfully well in that fifth film. Everything about the fifth film besides that point, it's like, it's just I don't know. But anyway, to make my point, the nephew in the Lost World, for what it's worth, even if no the audience didn't actually care for him. I mean, I don't even remember his name. So
Yeah.
if I were to choose this guy over the other guy in the fifth film,
Oh yeah.
this guy's a no brainer. Like literally,
Yeah.
at least they wrote him to be somebody who is like, yes, I want to make money. I'm gonna get money. Whereas in the fifth film, this character is basically portrayed by every single character that's been in every franchise in the 21st century. Just a simple, plain old dude who wants to make money, but he's
And that's
poorly written.
Yeah, and that's the same guy and same thing for Dotson and Diosin in the recent film, Dominion. Just a millionaire who makes like he literally created like this Italian island that's full of dinosaurs, and his fate was the same thing as Nidri's. And of course, the shaving cream container that somehow unexplainably
Somehow
no one.
that's recovered, and it's like in his hands, and he loses it again.
Yeah. But and again gets killed by a bunch of Dilophosaurus. The sequels are pretty much the same thing. These
If
sequels
I can
okay,
say again, I get it. I
no, go
apologize.
ahead.
It's this film is basically very special to me. It's sole reason why I got into science. I mean,
Mhm.
yes, Back to the Future, Jaws were a thing too, but it's the sole reason why I love dinosaurs, why I love science fiction, why I love everything in general about it. So naturally, if I can put this in with the first film, the irony about how the whole franchise turned into what it is now, it can be best summed up by Jeff Goldblum in the first
Yeah.
film when they're having that dinner scene, and he talks to Hammond about why it's bad to have this island open or to have dinosaurs return. He just says something about you packaged it and and he just bangs his hand on the table. And he says you put it on this, you put a sticker on it, and you sold it, you sold it, you sold it,
Yeah.
and that's basically what Hollywood did to this franchise.
Pretty much. Like I feel like Steven Spielberg is like Marlon Brando was that scene from The Godfather where like he sees like where Vito sees his son, Sonny. If you haven't seen The Godfather, what is wrong with you? But like Vito says, look how they massacred my boy. Like look how they massacred like that was Spielberg's creation and like, they butchered it. And like no offense to Chris Pratt. I love the guy. Hey, he loves God. Like for once, I'm thankful that there's a guy other than Denzel Washington. I love Denzel Washington too, but is a guy out there who loves God and has no shame for it. Chris Pratt he's a good guy. Like I like him. I think it's just like they just needed him because he's the muscle for the entire film. A lot of this film, like you can look at the science in the sequels and be like, none of this is possible. Like you can't hold down a big old dinosaur with a rope and not have your, arm snapped off. It's just not possible. Other
Not to
than,
mention the fact that he got tranked in the fifth film,
oh
and then
yeah,
as soon as the volcano is happening and erupting, oh yeah, let me go ahead and move my whole body and
yeah.
go over a bridge. I mean, go over a tree trunk, literally paralyzed a lot before the lava touches me. I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah. And then I like the third film, by the way. It's not, I used to be like a little distant from it, but I think like the other films, it makes me, I like appreciate it more. And I understand like people didn't like the whole like Spinosaurus killing the T-Rex thing, but you have to give it praise for them going to a new direction, like getting a new dinosaur we've never seen before. I'm not going to take a break. I think we're going to finish it off pretty soon from here. But I want to talk about Terminator because it's a good franchise. The first two, at least. The last two, well, like we've literally talked about this. Arnold Schwarzenegger, he said it. He's done. Like doesn't want it, but yeah, James Cameron did something interesting. Let's be honest. Terminator. I don't have to explain the plot. Like literally, we don't have to explain the plot of these films because you should have seen them, at least know about them. But these films, obviously, they kicked off something else. German robot. I'm just kidding. Austrian robot goes back in time, tries to stop someone who's like the savior of humanity, only to the thing
It's
is that
empowerment of the human will, basically. Like it's the fact that advanced technology, AI, can still be squashed by the common person, like
yeah,
common individual, and whether that be a man or a woman.
yeah,
It shows you in the first two films is specifically how technology, no matter how advanced it gets, and it's getting more advanced. It's scary when
yeah,
we see how AI is progressing, but
yeah,
it's to show you that in the end. we as humans, at least granted by God, have control over it or
Hmm.
still have it.
Yeah, and like these films, obviously, the first two are great films. The last couple are like, not so. Especially the third film. The third film's just horrendous.
Yeah,
And even Arnold has even said like he's doesn't like that film. I've actually never seen Salvation, but I've heard like what would have been the ending, which is like one of the Terminators taking John Connor's like skin and make it seem like, hey, now we won, you know. And then Genesis is not as bad as people are trying to make it out to be. Neither is Dark Fate, but they don't hold up
yeah.
to the first two. The interesting thing is that, like, and little did people know that who's the actress who played Sarah Connor again?
Linda Hamilton.
No one, little did they know Linda Hamilton and James Cameron would eventually get married.
I think it
Yeah,
only lasted for like about a year or so.
yeah. I mean, they remain good friends, and it's funny because like James Cameron also was married to a woman named Catherine Bigelow, who eventually one year they would compete against each other for best director, and she would beat him out for The Hurt Locker. This was before James Cameron did the Avatar films, and like I give James Cameron credit because this is like a technology and special effects that no one has ever seen. And like there's a deleted scene in Terminator 2 where like, you know, the scene with Linda Hamilton's twin, where like it looks like they're facing a mirror, but it's not. It's Linda Hamilton and her twin. Linda Hamilton is digging into a dummy while like the real Arnold Schwarzenegger is on the other side. But the way it's crafted together, like again, I give James Cameron his due because he creates such unique special effects. Yes, maybe the ending scene of Terminator 1 where like, you know, the skeleton robots just chasing them. Yes, that's a bit laughable, I'm not gonna lie, but still interesting. The
It's scary though.
technology.
I mean, well, as a
Yeah,
kid, if you were watching this at like 5 years old, like be me, 5 years old, and you watch that and you see him come out of the rubble of the fire
yeah,
and the way he walks, yes, it's laughable today. But as a kid, God, I mean, to this day, I'll be watching when I rewatch it, I'll get goosebumps because
yeah,
it freaked me out as a kid. The way it
yeah.
moved.
Yeah, and unfortunately, other than like, you know, bad sequels, it also suffers like multiple John Connors. It's called the John Connor curse. Edward Furlong, who originally played John Connor in Terminator 2, he's a nobody now. Like he hasn't acted in a long time. Same goes for the same actor who played him in Terminator 3. Like no one knows. The only actors that we know are Christian Bale and I forgot his name from Genesis.
Oh yes, the guy who was Boomerang
Terminator.
in Suicide Squad.
Oh no.
Jai Courtney. There we go. Jai
Yeah,
Courtney.
well, no, Jai Courtney was Crease or Reese.
Right, right. But I'm saying like, and he's. I mean, for those who right, he's Reese. But I'm thinking of like for those who don't even recognize him, might recognize him as playing Boomerang from Suicide Squad.
Yeah, I just forgot the actor's name who played Terminator John Connor. I don't know.
Oh, I know what you meant now. Okay,
It's gonna
yeah,
bug. Yeah, but those two are actually still acting, mainly Christian Bell. And if y'all don't know, like the John Connor curse, like again, Edward Furlong and the actor who played him in Terminator 3. I don't know the actor's name, but no one knows where he is. Christian Bell had this big old, like, there's literally a video on YouTube. It's this big old rant. So basically, the cinematographer was trying to fix something, and Christian Bell was like, "You all distracted me. Are you effing stupid?" Like, it's a big old 5 minute rant that goes on forever. And like it's the cinematographer, they couldn't fire him because they need him. If it was a PA, yeah, they would fire that guy. But yeah, it's the only time I've ever heard like Christian Bale like swear a lot in his own voice because he's from England. But yeah, and that's also the only film that doesn't have Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator, which is weird because he is the Terminator. We met him, well, we semi sort of met him.
well, he shook his
How?
hand.
Uh,
That counts as a meet to me. Shook his
yeah,
hand.
dude. Yeah, we had the video evidence and everything. You just had to like be there at the right moment because like we were so it was also the same year we met Jeff Goldblum. We were all just like in this crowd and everyone knew like Arnold was gonna show up out of this tunnel like pretty soon. So we all just waited and waited and waited and like the amount of roars. Yeah. Even Arnold is like the king of blockbusters too, because that and Predator, and we won't go into the plot of Predator, but yeah, that I'm pretty sure Predator came out in the summer, right? Yeah, so Predator as well. The infamous handshake, which his sister and I we do sometimes. The handshake with him and Carl, or not Carl, or
Carl Weathers.
Carl Weathers. Yeah, well, I get people confused. Yeah, Carl Weathers. Again, yeah, he's the summer blockbuster king. True Lies. And then of course I mentioned Nolan. I was thinking about it. We won't do Nolan now because I actually also want to wait until we watch Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer. Yes.
But I will say, like the Dark Knight trilogy, same with Back to the Future, good as it is. All
They're like
right.
right here in terms of the best trilogies. They're right neck and neck.
Because even like Nolan has agreed, like just leave it there as it is. We don't have to like continuously see what Bruce Wayne has been since the liberation of Gotham. Either, we can pretend he's dead and Alfred's just seeing someone that looks like Bruce, or Bruce is alive. My interpretation is, yeah, he's alive, but he's retired. And
Yes, that's how I view it.
even if I don't know about the Flash movie, even if they bring him back out of retirement, which obviously he's not going to, it's a great trilogy. And I've talked about that in my Batman episode, which you were not a part of, but still a great trilogy. I'm just excited to see Michael Keaton back as Batman, because also Batman, at least the first two films was Michael Keaton did come out in the summer too. So like this was the era before the MCU. And guys, I'm not talking about the MCU because they're everywhere. They're not just in the summer. So I had to tell you guys what counted as a summer film. It has to be in the summer. So like last week of May to, I would say, mid-August. That's to me summer blockbuster. Yeah, we could also talk about Star Wars, but we've already talked about Star Wars. But that's also like magic within itself. That's the thing
Hmm.
about summer blockbusters, is that these were science fiction films that people can go and watch. Like these are fantasy films. And I agree that I don't think they're going to die off. I think they're going to continuously keep going and going. The thing is that you have to step it up. You know what I mean? Like as a filmmaker myself, and you as someone who loves science fiction, they have to step it up, bring something new. And nowadays it's pretty hard because we've seen pretty much everything. You know what I mean? Like we've seen, the science fiction aliens. We've seen time travel twice in two different series, but you can still think of something. I mean, Top Gun last year, geez, it was neither of those things, and it made a lot of money over the summer. And I've yet to see it.
I mean, I have. It's a good film. Again, not to go too much into it, but I didn't like Top Gun, the original. It's like one
I,
of the only '80s films where I just was like, I watched it through and through, watched the whole thing. I understand why it's such a classic for so many people. It didn't appeal to me. And then I watched Maverick, and I'm going, man, that is good. There's a reason why the cinema needs to continue. Like, there's a reason why theaters need to be alive.
yeah, like for me personally, I'm gonna have to put my first film, whatever it'll be, on streaming services, because that's like nowadays that's like the budget for independent filmmakers. Back then, it's like you literally have to find a theater to say, "Hey, can you show this?" And then you have to
Hey,
only
you
rely on
forget we
that
have
theater.
A24. We still have
Oh yeah,
A24, so that'd be the only that probably that or IFC might be the
uh,
only good options for you right there.
yeah. There's that. Yeah, and like, yeah, I love the summer blockbusters. There's plenty of them coming around. So yeah, we'll stick with. I still have yet to see some of the films that came out this year. So I mean, I am going to talk about The Flash, but I won't talk about it when it comes out. I'll probably talk about it in the end, because there's some. I kind of want to get a collection of action films for throughout the years. But yeah, be prepared when we talk about Indiana Jones and the Nolan, because I know those films are going to be great. I just hope this is just me like being optimist. I kind of hope Oppenheimer outpowers Indiana Jones,
I
because
hope so too.
yeah, like me personally, like I was not a huge fan of Tenet just because like I was really confused. But
It was really complicated. Like the whole idea of it's not even time travel. It's
yeah,
just reversal and how everything is like what is it? Everything that's happening in one forward is all reversed, and
yeah,
whatever's in reverse is what's going on in the present or current, whatever. Yeah, it's a mess. It's a
yeah.
mess, but it's a good popcorn film. Very good to
Yeah,
watch.
yeah. I think the issue with most Nolan films, I guess we'll talk about it briefly before we sign up, is that like, yeah, like some of his original characters, like how often are you gonna know them? That's why I'm excited about Oppenheimer, is that like it's an actual event, because this is gonna be his very first biographical film. So yeah, I don't want to talk about it too much because I want to see it when it comes out. Yeah, I'm excited for that. I know it's gonna be a good summer blockbuster, and I know this summer's gonna have some good blockbusters. And I know it's never gonna end. It's gonna continuously go, because then like where would the theater be if we continue with streaming services? Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, I wish we can go into more, guys, but I don't want to keep us going. It's nearly almost 2 hours, actually. 145 and 145, 30 seconds unedited. So I'm gonna leave it off from here, guys. Other than that, Jesus, a pleasure as always to get you over here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, please show your students my pocket. I'm just kidding. No, I don't want to get you in trouble. Other than that, you guys have a good night, morning, day, whenever you're listening to this. My jawline hurts. I'll be honest with you. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Y'all have a good night, day, morning. This is Gilbert signing off. All right.